Hey everybody, Matumbo here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we are not playing Historic. We are actually going to be discussing Historic and what is going to be taking place here in just a couple of weeks. I'm pretty excited and I'm a little nervous as about to what's going to happen. But you know, before we dive down into everything, just real quick reminder, if you enjoy the channel and the video, hit that subscribe button, the like button, check out all the links below. Leave a comment and let us know what you would like to see in a future video, and we'll do that for you. But with that being said, we're just gonna hop right into today's video. And I've been doing a lot of thinking on this. But what this is going to be about Historic and what the new Kaladesh Remastered set is going to actually bring to Historic. Now we're going to talk about just a few different things, and I'm going to have a few different thoughts on some cards from the set, or from, you know, the two sets that are coming together to form Kaladesh Remastered. So as you know, Kaladesh Remastered is basically the Kaladesh set combined with Ether Revolt put together. I think together roughly it's like 360 cards or 380 cards, something along those lines. They're going to bring those two sets together. And then I'm sure they're going to cut cards that they don't feel like belong or are necessarily not needed, which I really don't feel like actually adds to the full experience of actually playing with those sets. One reason being is because I know they're trying to bring Pioneer into Arena. Now, when they bring a whole set for Pioneer, or a whole format for Pioneer, you need to have access to all of those cards. So they're cutting cards right now from these sets, Kaladesh Remastered, as well as Amonkhet Remastered. There are cards missing. So when they push Pioneer, we're going to actually have, you know, dozens and dozens of cards that are just not available, that should have been made available whenever these sets actually came out. So what are they going to do when those sets come out? Are they going to re-release them into the packs? Are they just going to give those cards to us because maybe they don't feel like they were important enough for us to craft? You know, we really don't know how that's going to work, and I really don't think that Wizards actually takes that into consideration when they're doing like sets like these, because you know, at the end of the day, the way they push these sets out, they are just money grabs. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, because there are people like me that will go in and they will continue to buy the packs because the game is really fun. People like myself love playing this game, and we want to do what we can to support the game. But at the same time, Wizards does need to take that in consideration when they're pushing out these sets, because how are we going to address those missing cards once a whole new format that needs those cards is presented into Arena? So let's really talk about first what the major thing that's going to be brought from Ether Revolt, or not Ether Revolt, but Kaladesh Remastered, and that is energy. So just for example, we have Ether Hub. So Ether Hub is just the land, and when it comes into play, we get an energy. And as you can see, the little energy symbol there, energy is a really weird ability because it's really overpowered. Yeah, this is an ability they may never come back to. They may never come back in and say, you know what, let's print more cards that have the energy ability, because one of the main things with energy, it's a resource, and it's a resource that never depletes unless you spend it. Whereas mana, so with mana, you play your land, you tap your land for mana that you can use to cast spells, and then as the phases progress through your turn, and as your turn end, you lose access to that mana until the following turn. You know, you have to regenerate that mana during your turn. Whereas energy, when you generate energy, it gets put into a bank that just cannot be manipulated. And again, the only way to deplete that energy is to spend it. So your opponent or yourself, you could just be banking energy with all of the different energy cards, and then you are going to utilize that energy for all kinds of different abilities. And there's you know, abilities that let you draw cards, that let you deal damage, that let you pump your creatures, that let you potentially just put cards into play for free. There's so many just different things that's part of the energy. And I'm not, I'm a fan of energy in a sense, but at the same time, I really do feel like that it is too powerful. And there were cards that were banned that did generate energy when they were in standard. You know, you had a land search card, you had a creature card that, and all they did essentially was generate energy on top of what they did. So I feel like energy is something, and again, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point. We don't necessarily need energy. I feel like at least myself, I'm going to be focused on other cards, and you know, I'm not saying that I'm never going to play energy cards, and you just have to be ready for energy. And if you're not familiar with energy and the way it works, it is something that you do need to get yourself familiar with. You know, go back and watch videos. A couple years ago, Huey Jensen won Worlds with a Teamer Energy deck that was super powerful. So go back and check that out if you're not familiar with how energy works. So just like I said, be prepared for it. So let's talk about a couple cards that we're going to see from, that we could potentially see from this new set coming out, but I don't actually think that these cards will actually be put into the set. So I think these will be like preemptively banned, so we won't be able to open these cards or craft them, because some of them are banned in Pioneer. I think, actually thinking about them, I think 3 out of 4 of these cards are banned in Pioneer. Not 100%. I probably should have done my due diligence and checked that before making this video, but we're gonna go into it. One of them is a super powerful card. This card, basically, when this card came out, I think the first major tournament was actually here in DFW, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the top 8 of that Grand Prix featured 32 copies of this card in the top 8, and that card being Smuggler's Copter. So this set was famous for introducing vehicles. Vehicles are a new type of, and you're familiar with them because they've reprinted some vehicles. But a vehicle is essentially an artifact that says it has a crew ability, and the crew is based on the number that it says. Like for Smuggler's Copter, for example, it says crew 1, and crew 1 means you tap a creature. You tap creatures that have at least power 1, and then this becomes a creature that can actually function, you know, attack, block, whatever. But this is a 2 mana, essentially 3/3. Once it becomes crewed, and when it attacks or blocks, you can draw a card. And then if you do, you discard a card. So the fact that this is a colorless 3/3 flyer for 2 mana is really, really busted. This is a card that I'm 99.9% sure is not going to be released into Historic, but I could be wrong, because there are ways to deal with this. You know, we are getting cards like Fatal Push, stuff like that. But again, we had Fatal Push back then, and that didn't really matter. So be wary that we could be hitting Smuggler's Copter, but probably not. Another card that is not going to probably see the light of day once this set gets released is going to be Felidae Guardian. Felidae Guardian, there was a combo with this when this was legal. This basically got emergency banned 1 week because of the ridiculousness that it comboed off with a Planeswalker, a 3-mana Planeswalker called Saheeli Rai. So Felidae Guardian is a 4-mana 1/4. When it comes into the battlefield, you exile another permanent and then return the card. You basically blink a card whenever it comes into play. So there is a 3-mana Planeswalker in Kaladesh that basically says -2, make a copy of something. So, or make a copy of it, of a token. You make a token copy until end of turn. So what you would do is you would make a copy of the Felidae Guardian. Felidae Guardian would blink the Saheeli, the Planeswalker. Planeswalker come right back into play, and then rinse and repeat. The new Saheeli Rai would copy the Felidae Guardian. Felidae Guardian would blink, and then you would end up essentially with an infinite number of Felidae Guardians. So the plus side to this is so actually this combo was 100% on Arena when Arena first premiered, and we were actually able to play because I do remember actually clicking through this and trying it out a couple times, and then once I did it, I was like, oh, I'm never doing this again because I have to click a billion times, and it's not fun. It's not fun to click that many times. It is fun to essentially pull off an infinite combo. When you actually have to click, though, like 5 or 6 times per cycle, or however many times it was not fun at all. So maybe they allow Felidae Guardian to hit play, or to actually see the light of day with Kaladesh Remastered. Maybe not, but be mindful that if they do, it's probably a mistake. And I feel like if they do bring back Felidae Guardian, then we may not see Saheeli, but at the same time, Felidae Guardian is obviously the worst of the two. So be mindful that this card, again, I don't feel like is actually going to get reprinted. So last card that I'm, again, 99% sure is not going to see the light of day is going to be Walking Ballista. So Walking Ballista was printed, I think it was in Kaladesh. It could have been either revolt. I don't remember which exactly it said it was. But this is a double X creature. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So if you pay 2 mana, it's a 1/1. If you pay 4 mana, it's a 2/2, and so on and so on. It has another ability where you can pay 4 colorless mana at any time to put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista. And obviously the power part of this is the fact that you can remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista, and then it deals 1 damage to any target. So if somebody goes to remove this, with some kind of removal spell, you can activate Walking Ballista at instant speed and start pinging damage. Now, overall, this card is actually, it is very powerful. There's a ton of decks that want access to this card. There's Tron. There's a number. I could just list decks, but I'm not going to. But really, why this is banned, I believe this is banned in Pioneer. Again, I'm not 100%, but there is a combo with this and the 3-mana Heliod that everybody plays. If you're playing the mono white life gain decks in Historic, or even Standard, Heliod combos with Walking Ballista. Well, how does it copy with Walking Ballista? Well, you have this Walking Ballista with at least 2 counters on it, and then what you do is you activate Heliod with its 2-mana ability that says another target creature gains lifelink. And then Walking Ballista now has lifelink. You remove 1 counter, leaving it as a 1/1 after removing that other counter, and deal a damage to anything, probably your opponent. And then since Walking Ballista has lifelink at this point, then Heliod's other ability says when a creature you control with lifelink deals damage, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on whatever creature you want. So take a counter off, put a counter on, take a counter off, put a counter on. So again, infinite combo, pretty easy to pull off, especially in mono white. It's another 2-card combo. 2-card combos usually, when they're that easy to pull off, do get interfered with a little bit by Wizards. They do monitor that stuff. Hence, not going to add this. Since it's banned in Pioneer, probably not going to see the light of day in Historic. But again, I could be completely off base. They could bring it in, but again, I necessarily don't think they are going to actually bring this in and put this in play for us to just get shenanigans all over the place. But you never know. Could be wrong. But again, my prediction, we're gonna see how this plays out. Well, there is one final card that I'm actually on the fence of. They banned this card. They unbanned it. It does have a very powerful payoff, and the energy that it requires to pull off is a lot. I believe it's 8 energy. We're about to find out when I click to reveal it. But basically it says you tap it, spend the energy, flip, look at a bunch of cards from the top of your deck, put one into play for free. So that card is Etherworks Marvel, and this only costs 4 mana. And it actually, as we can see here, the tap ability says pay 6 energy. You look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then you can cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So the other part of this ability does say whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get an energy. So not only will you be generating energy from the spells that you are playing in your deck that actually naturally generate energy, if you have other cards in your deck that are that are dying and going to the graveyard, whether or not you're controlling that ability by sacrificing those permanents, and there are permanents that you can sacrifice. There are ways to basically control this. You are going to be generating additional energy, and you are going to be flipping cards and casting stuff for free. Now, the plus side to that is this is a legendary artifact. The minus side to that is back then this was banned because people were literally activating this every turn, sometimes twice in a turn, with ways to untap this. Really, really crazy. And on top of it, this card says specifically you may cast the card without paying its mana cost. It's not play it or put it into play. You actually get to cast it. So the reason I think that this may not be seeing the light of day is because of the fact that Ulamog is in Historic. Now, being able to essentially cast an Ulamog on, we'll just say, for humor's sake, turn 4 for free is game breaking. There's really not going to be any way to recover from that, and it won't be fun. Hopefully this is a card they do consider actually just not reprinting, but at the same time, would not surprise me if they do actually end up putting this in and then saying, you know, something along the lines of later down the road, oh, this was a mistake. You know, we've been monitoring the gameplay, blah, 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 blah. We've decided to suspend this and yada, yada, yada. So again, I don't think this will see the light of day at all, but could be wrong. All right. So we're going to cover one card that I am very much not excited about being reprinted. And again, we don't even know if this is 100% going to get reprinted and put in the set. We don't know about any of these cards, because any of these cards that I cover could be in, they could not be in. You know, they could just come in here and scrap a whole bunch of cards. So one of the cards that is most likely going to see a reprint is our friend the Beaumatte Courier. So I hate, and everybody that watches my channel knows, I hate playing mono red. I hate playing against mono red, not necessarily just goblins, but mono red in general. This card is a huge gain for mono red decks. This is an artifact. It's a 1/1. It has haste. When it attacks, you exile the top card of your library from your deck, put it face down underneath it, and then at any time you can pay a 1 red mana, discard your hand, take all of the cards that have been exiled underneath this Beaumatte Courier and put them into your hand. So there are literally red decks. They are so low to the ground. The mana curve is so low. They're just going to burn, 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 burn. You know, tiny creature, tiny creature, tiny creature, and then by that point, this card has 3 or 4 cards underneath it. They might even have 2 or 3 of these in play. Then they're just going to discard no cards, usually, maybe even 1, and then refill their hand, and then just come at you again, and it is just not going to be a fun experience, in my opinion. Some people I know love playing this card. It's a very powerful card. It is actually, you know, a little overpowered, but I don't like playing red. This is a card I do not want to see. Now, one card that we are super excited to see, and I'm not the only one. I know there's a big content creator out there by the name of old Saffron Olive, who's really stoked about this as well. But this is one of my favorite cards in the set. We have Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon is so much fun. This is an artifact that says if an artifact or a creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So that's a huge mouthful. But what this basically does is when you play a creature, you're going to get 2 triggers. So Risen Reef, going to trigger twice when an elemental comes into play. This is kind of like a Yarok, but it's not limited to elementals. This is all creature effects that come into play. This is actually could be potentially good in a wizard deck, especially a wizard deck with Naban, because then you're doing, you know, an extra and then an extra. So Yeah, this is a great card. It's fun. It can be competitive in a sense because sometimes people don't know how to react, or sometimes you're getting so much value from, you know, typically when you play a creature that when it enters the battlefield, you're going to get just a tiny bit of value. But when you're generating double that value, sometimes triple or quadruple that value, it is just completely impossible to recover from that. So this is a fun card. I've got a couple foil ones for a couple of my commander decks here. Yeah, this is a great card. Super fun, well balanced. You know, because does cost 4 mana. It's not like a one drop or anything crazy like that. So yeah. So with that being said, let's talk about masterpieces. Now we saw in Amonkhet Remastered, they brought back something like 12 or 15 cards or something crazy that were not even in the set. Now, 5 of them technically were in the sets because they could be found as masterpieces, but then the rest of them were just random cards that they thought were like flavorful. Now, in regards to these, I took I think I picked 7. I have 7 cards here that I think will most likely get reprinted into the set for various reasons, and then a couple that are just like shots in the dark. So with that being said, let's hop into these masterpieces and which ones I think will get reprinted. All right, well, the first card I'm fairly positive. Now we went through each one of the cards that all of the masterpieces, and I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown of this real quick, actually. So there's a ton of there's like 50 something masterpieces, and they're all of the masterpieces from this particular block are artifacts. So there's a ton that we can just immediately we know they're not going to print, and if they did, it would be ridiculously crazy. So we have cards like Soul Ring, that's not going to be in here. Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, I think. There's a couple of Moxes, I think, Chrome Mox, stuff like that. We know that they're not going to make masterpieces. Another bunch of cards that we can just immediately we don't have to worry about being masterpieces because they're already in the set are going to be the Gear Hulks. There's one Gear Hulk for each color, black, blue, green, red, white, and they're already in the set. So there's no point in making some kind of weird masterpiece version of that card. And then I feel like this is kind of an iffy, but I feel like this holds true for the rest of it as well, because there are 5 swords in the masterpiece series for this block, and if they were to reprint one of the swords, it really wouldn't make sense, because at that point you leave a weird unfinished cycle of those swords, because you should reprint all of them if you're going to reprint one of them, and then that would be super unhealthy for Historic anyway to have any of those swords, like Sword and Body and Mind, Fire Ice, whatever they are. So I don't think the swords are going to reprint it. So let's look at some that are actually more likely to get reprinted. First one, I feel like this is almost a no-brainer, and that's going to be Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle, we already have a card that almost does the same thing in regards to Sorcerous Spyglass. Sorcerous Spyglass is a 2-mana version of this. The only difference is you pay 1 extra mana for Sorcerous Spyglass. You actually get to look at their hand, and then you get to name a card. Whereas Pithing Needle, you just name a card for 1 mana, and it's a shot in the dark. This is going to be wanted for best of 3. That way you can actually just drop this on turn 1 and blindly call the card that is actually in their deck. So this would not be the worst reprint because it's not very powerful. All right, the second one I do feel like they're also going to bring back, and I feel like it's going to be partially for the same reason. That is going to be Sculpting Steel. This card is actually, I feel like, very, very well balanced. This doesn't do a lot in Historic. I mean, it potentially can. Don't get me wrong. I haven't gone in and checked every single artifact. But Sculpting Steel, 3-mana artifact. When it comes into play, you can copy any artifact on the battlefield. So this will, you know, probably be used to like copy mana rocks or just anything like that. There's not, I don't feel like there's a ton of super powerful artifacts in the format anyway. Maybe you can just do some degenerate stuff with maybe like some Meteor Golem, weird shenanigans or something. But again, you have to get a Meteor Golem into play. But yeah, so Sculpting Steel, I feel like would be a completely fine reprint. Would not be very far out of place. Again, it's an artifact. It copies artifacts. Not super powerful. So I feel like we'll probably see this one. The next card I feel like we could easily see, and we just kind of got a new version of it anyway. And this card, I believe, is legal in Historic, and that is going to be Hangerback Walker. So, or not Historic, but this is legal in Pioneer. So Hangerback Walker, it's another double X card, similar to Walking Ballista. It enters the battlefield with however many counters on it that you pay into it. When it dies, you create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature with flying for each +1/+1 counter on it. You can also pay 1 mana and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on Hangerback Walker. So people back in the day were playing with this. They were playing with, you know, Steel Overseer, and you know, and it is worth mentioning Steel Overseer is a card that's also a masterpiece in this set. But again, no reason to actually put it in this set because it's already in another set on Arena. So if they were to reprint it, that would just be a completely, you know, jerk move on their part to make us have to craft 4 of those or open 4 of those, and we already have 4, and then we have to worry about the duplicate protection again and all that crazy stuff. So again, I do feel like we are going to see this card. Now, this card, some people call me crazy for saying this card, and trust me, it's gonna get a little more crazy as we go. But this is the first of the crazies. But I actually feel like in Historic, the format is slow enough to actually put this in. And I don't really feel like this would obviously make a few other decks more viable, and I do feel like this actually would be healthy for Historic, and that is our friend the Ether Vial. It's a 1-mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can choose to put a counter on it, and then at any time you can tap it to put a creature with converted mana cost equal to the number of counters on it into play for free as an instant base. So humans plays this. You can probably play this in Merfolk, maybe Elves, but I feel like at least in Elves does not need this deck. Elves is fast enough. You don't need this. Merfolk is almost fast enough without this, but yes, this does help Merfolk a little bit because you actually get to play a better interaction with this. A humans deck in Historic would greatly benefit from this as well. So I do feel like while yes, this card is very powerful, I don't feel like this is something that's going to be too powerful for Historic. I do feel like this is on the cusp of them doing like the whole Thoughtseize. I feel like this would be this set's Thoughtseize equivalent of like the best card that they actually brought back from the Masterpiece series for this set. So, all right, now these next 3, I feel like again a little bit of a stretch, but I could easily see them. First off, because again, this isn't necessarily powerful, but this reprint right here could potentially make games pretty long and grindy, and that is the Ensnaring Bridge. This artifact basically has the ability to prevent people from attacking. It's based on the number of cards in your hand. So if you can keep your hand empty, then you can prevent attacks. So there is that. It does leave you open though, because if you don't have any cards in your hand, you can't protect this from actually dying. But then some decks just can't deal with artifacts in general because they don't play artifact removal. But again, when you print a card like this, then the whole meta shifts, and then you start playing cards that can actually deal with cards like this, and it does throw a wrench in people's plans sometimes. So I really don't think that this would be the craziest reprint. So if this were to be reprinted, that would be kind of cool. I could say that now, maybe not, but we'll see. All right, number 2. And you are going to absolutely think I'm crazy for this one. But there is a card that is semi-similar to this. I believe it cost 1 additional mana to cast it, but the same amount of mana to actually activate it, and it is slightly different, and that is our Oblivion Stone card. So this is a 3-mana artifact, comes into play, doesn't really do anything. You can pay 4 mana to put a fate counter on something, kind of irrelevant, because typically what you do is you pay to put this into play, and then you pay 5 mana with the bottom ability and destroy each non-land permanent without a fate counter on it, then remove all fate counters from all permanents. Basically, this says destroy everything that did not have a fate counter, that you took the time to prevent from dying. So, yeah. So again, this would not be the craziest of the reprints, but could be a little crazy. There is a card that is very similar to this. I can't think of the name of it offhand, and again, I know I should have done my my duty and gone digging on some of these cards, but there is a card that costs 4 mana, and then you can pay 5 mana and sacrifice it to, I believe it exiles all non-land permanents from play. So almost the exact same card, almost. Again, this does cost 1 less mana, which potentially does make it more powerful, but again, not the craziest card to think about when you potentially think, oh, there is a card very similar to that in Historic right now, and it rarely ever sees the light of day. And last but not least, this card. When I first show you this card, I want you to soak it in. I want you to think how ridiculous this card is, how ridiculous it has been. But then I want you to think about some other cards that actually are in Historic that are way more powerful than this. Just soak it in for a second. Just soak it in. Wurmcoil Engine. So Wurmcoil Engine. What do you think about Wurmcoil Engine? I mean, yeah, it's a 6 mana 6/6. It has Death Touch. It has Lifelink. When it dies, you get 2 3/3s that essentially replace the Wurmcoil Engine. One of them has Death Touch. One of them has Lifelink. But is this better, or is it worse than Ulamog? I really am going to start putting this up to the Ulamog test, because I think Ulamog and Ugin are far more powerful than Wurmcoil Engine. I mean, I don't think there's any argument at all. And if we have access to Ulamog and Ugin, and Wurmcoil Engine is like below that. I mean, why not, right? I would honestly be fine with this, but then at the same time, it could get nuts, because this is going to make more of the all artifact decks a little bit more powerful, because this is another top end card that is hard to deal with. But at the same time, I love playing those colorless artifact decks. So seeing something like this could just be the icing on the cake. And then we would have to start playing cards that actually have to deal with Wurmcoil Engine. But you know what? One of those cards that deals with Wurmcoil Engine, Ulamog. So yeah, so could see that. Now, I really thought about going through just all these different sets and actually trying to predict some other non-masterpiece cards that would potentially be in this Kaladesh Remastered set, but I didn't want to take the time. There's really just one card that I really want to see printed, and that card, because I feel like there's a couple cards that would interact really well with this, and that's Harmless Offering. So Harmless Offering, and one of the cards they just reprinted, and the reason I want this, I mean, besides the fact that it's a cute kitty, yeah, it's like an Eldrazi kitty, but cute kitty card, target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. There are times where I want to give my cards away to my opponents, and one of them was a reprint in Amonkhet Remastered that shouldn't have even been reprinted in Amonkhet Mastered, and that is Demonic Pact. Demonic Pact, I don't have it ready to pull up on the screen, but it's an enchantment that has 4 modes, and you have to pick a different mode every turn, and one of those modes says you lose the game. So yes, I want to cast the Demonic Pact. I want to gain 4 life. I want to deal 4 damage. I want to draw 2 cards, whatever the modes are, and then the turn before I have to activate, you lose the game. I want to spend 3 mana and I want to give it to my opponent and I want to make them lose the game with the cute kitty card because they are so distracted by the cute Eldrazi kitty with the crazy, you know, beast thing coming off of its tail. They are so just distracted by this cute little beast that they lose the game because they weren't paying attention. And again, I really feel like this is very flavorful in that sense. I'd like to give away 9 lives, and this would pair perfectly with 9 lives again. 9 lives, that's a cat. This is a cat. I mean, yeah. So I feel like this potentially fits in very flavorful with those. So, you know, fingers crossed that we see some cool cats coming in. Yeah. So that's my take. That's what I feel like we might see, we might not see in Kaladesh Remastered. You know, overall, I'm super stoked. I'm always stoked when they bring in new sets because it lets me, you know, start brainstorming new ideas, lets me put out more content for everybody. You know, I'm already starting to work on some ideas for the new set. So, and I'm hoping some of these cards are not left out. But real quick though, I mean, what I'm really worried about more than anything is what is the Kaladesh Remastered update going to do to the game client? We just saw this update just what, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, not even. All they did was put in Momir, a format that they already had in the platform. They did an update just to unlock a game mode they already had, and to go in and add a few cosmetics that people could purchase. So they basically went in and turned on a money grab feature and an old play mode, and it should not have done anything at all to the game. And we get crazy errors like this. Like, what is going on in this screen? Like, why is the name missing on some of the cards? Why are the life totals displayed? One landscape, one, you know, one horizontal, one vertical, one. Why is the mana symbol for the murderous rider, you know, why is it off to the side and ginormous like that? I mean, why is that a thing? Why, when I search my sideboard, you know, with Mastermind's acquisition, why are all of the pluses and minuses and numbers for planeswalkers all just strewn all over the place? And why can't I make sense of what's going on? You know, luckily I know what all these cards do, but why do I have to deal with that? And why, when I tap for mana, why is it just giant numbers that I can't get rid of, and they block other cards and prevent me from clicking on things because I can't see? You know, this is stuff that should never have happened. This was a, you know, potentially a simple update that they pushed out just a few short weeks ago, and it wasn't even meant to push the limits on anything. And you're about to, you know, and then after that, then we hear that they're pushing back mobile. You know, what other errors, you know, that we know about? You know, I know some of the cosmetics for like the Phyrexian Swamp, they got rid of the Phyrexian writing on the swamp because of the glitch. And there's a ton of other glitches too. The game is slower, the client's slower. I have to sit on the end screen, like the victory or the defeat screen, longer while it sits there and loads. It takes longer to just get to the main menu sometimes. There's just so many little things that should not have been affected because you have this huge company that is trying to maximize their profits, but they're not wanting to put in enough enough of those resources to actually make a product that is worthy of pulling in those profits. So you're about to release a set, a Kaladesh Remastered set, for no reason, because Kaladesh and Ether Revolt were already programmed into the system. They're already on Arena when Arena came out, and you were letting us play with Arena when it first premiered. So these cards are already programmed in, and you're taking these two sets that already exist, instead of just re-releasing them and letting us purchase the sets. You're going to take these two sets and merge them together into a super set. And take some cards out, add some cards in, and then probably have to come back in and fix this anyway later on when Pioneer gets released. And I'm worried about what the client's going to do, because that's going to be a huge update. So what else? What else is going to break? Because this set comes out on the 12th. When you guys are watching this video, it's going to be the 2nd. So in 10 days, this is going to launch. And in 10 days, will we have a client that functions properly? Will the errors that we're seeing now, will they be non-existent anymore? Or is the entire client going to break? I mean, these are questions that I'm genuinely concerned about. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a bunch of you that are concerned about what's going to happen. And hopefully it's just a seamless effort. Everything gets moved over. But hey, what you need to know, it's 10 days out. Is your QA team, are they testing it? Are you actively testing it? Do you have a QA team that actually does that? Do you need somebody to help you QA? I mean, these are genuine questions that I have. Like, I do QA at my job. Do you need help? Do you need me to help you QA this? Do you have a product team? Do you have a strong enough product management team that is actually directing this and making sure that we not only get our errors fixed that we have now, but we prevent other errors from happening? So hopefully the answer to those questions are all yes. That they have all of this set in place. That's what I'm worried about. But again, I'm excited to see what happens with this new set that's coming out. I'm excited to play it. I've been waiting for it. I'm hyped. I'm gonna play it regardless of what happens. If it breaks, it breaks, and then we'll have to make another video and address it at that point. But again, I'm excited about Kaladesh. So what are you excited about? If you enjoy this video, please let me know. This was a little bit different from what we usually do, and I know I rambled on a little bit, but again, it's just, I've never done a video like this before, and I'm, crappily adding images as I'm talking about them. So again, this could have been done a lot better than what it was. Plus you get to look at my apartment and everything that's going on in the back. So however many cats you saw, I hope you enjoyed that. So please leave a like if you enjoyed it as well. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you're excited for, what you're worried about, what kind of concerns you have about the set coming out. Anything you can. Let me know that you made it to the end of the video, because again, I am genuinely concerned and excited all at the same time for Kaladesh Remastered, and I hope you are too. So, all right. With that being said, please stay safe, please stay hydrated, and we will see you next time. Remember, this channel would not exist without such amazing viewers and subscribers. Thank you so much for interacting with the channel and helping grow the community. And a very big special thank you to the Patreons listed here for supporting the channel.